So a couple of days ago, I got married to my partner of 3 years, and my stepdaughter tried to ruin it, but it didn't work out so well for her. Basically, my husband and I had gone to high school together, and after we graduated, we kind of lost touch and had our own lives. I dated a couple of guys before I met my ex-boyfriend, and he and I dated for 8 years. Now, obviously, you guys might be wondering why I did not get married to him. And that was because he didn't want to get married. I was a fool for staying with him because I kept dropping hints that I wanted to get married after our third year together. I think, but he never picked up on it. And after 5 years together, I started telling him I really wanted to get married and start a family. And he told me that he didn't really believe in any of that stuff. We had a couple of fights about it, but he convinced me to stay with him and give up on what I wanted, and I loved him. So I decided that I was fine with whatever he wanted as long as I got to be with him. I thought that we were committed to each other, and from the age of 25 to 33, I was head over heels in love with him. But then a couple of weeks before our 8th anniversary together, I decided to surprise him by showing up unannounced to his workplace with dinner, and that's when I caught him with his co-worker, who he had convinced me was just his friend and nothing else. And I, like an idiot, had believed him, even though I did notice them flirting with each other at some parties before I finally caught them in the act. They were in their office and they hadn't seen me, so I just quietly left and went back home. And yeah, I packed up my stuff immediately and I left. I didn't leave a note or anything. I didn't explain anything. I just left. I blocked him everywhere that day itself. And I moved in with a friend of mine who lived a little away from the city. I even quit my job and started planning my own business because that had been the intention all along. And now that I was already starting from scratch, I figured that it might as well be a good time for this. Thankfully, our finances had always been separated because I was a strong believer in the fact that if I was not married to him, then there was no need for our finances to be merged or anything. But anyway, it was a very difficult process emotionally. And it's not like he didn't find me. He did come to visit me after he figured out where I was staying, and we had a huge fight because even when he showed up, it was not to apologize. It was basically to call me out on the fact that I was the one who had been nagging him about marriage and kids and all of that stuff for so long that it stressed him out. And that's what led to the cheating. So basically, he was blaming me for the fact that he had cheated, and I couldn't take that. We had a huge shouting match, and in the end, I physically kicked him out of the house because I couldn't bear to see his face anymore. And when I say that I kicked him out of the house, I literally mean it. That was how 8 years of our relationship came to an end. Everything just imploded, and for about 2 years after that, I was single on purpose. I didn't go out on any dates. I didn't say yes to anybody who asked for my number. I just tried to live by myself for a while after I moved out of my friend's house. In those 2 years, I got therapy, I worked on my business, and thankfully now I'm doing much better. It has taken a lot for me to move on from what happened because 8 years of my life is no joke. I gave them all up for that man, and he ruined what I wanted for myself. I wanted to get married and I wanted to have a family, but by the time I met my husband again, I was already 35, and now that I'm married, I'm 38. So obviously having kids is a bit risky right now. And I feel like my ex was the one who took that away from me, so it's obviously pretty traumatizing. And I love my husband. But I don't think I'll ever be able to let go of the bitterness that my ex left me with. My husband and I reconnected at a high school reunion 3 years ago, and I really hit it off with him. So I gave him my number and we started texting and talking, and that's how we got together. He had been married before, and he even had a daughter from his previous marriage with his college girlfriend. Unfortunately, she passed away 6 years after giving birth to their daughter, and since then, he had raised his daughter by himself. Out of respect for that, I had always tried my best with his daughter, but unfortunately, my stepdaughter never came to like me. She was always hostile. She hardly reciprocated my attempts to be friendly towards her. And in the past 3 years, she has shown me multiple times that she doesn't want anything to do with me. Even my husband had tried to get her to like me and get us to spend time together, but she was least interested. It's obvious that she doesn't want anything to do with me, and lately we have come to respect that, and we just steered clear of one another. And since she was at college, for the most part, it was easy to be at home. However, she had come back to stay with us in the days leading up to the wedding. And even then, she was doing her best to make everything as unpleasant for me as possible. And I was ignoring all of it. I guess I shouldn't have, and I guess I should have seen the red flags, because on the day of my wedding, she pulled off something totally insane. A couple of days before the thing, she had asked me if she would be allowed to bring a +1 to the wedding, and I was a bit skeptical because I didn't know what kind of guy she would bring. But even then, I said yes, because I didn't want to create more drama, and guess who she showed up with on the day of the wedding? Of course, it had to be my ex-boyfriend. Thankfully, we had already had the ceremony, so there were no interruptions there. It was during the reception that she brought him in, and everybody just stared at him because people know about my past relationship. I myself could not believe it, because I couldn't imagine anybody being so cruel to me for no reason, because it's not like I've done anything to hurt her. And I couldn't even fathom why my ex-boyfriend would show up, because ever since we broke up, we have had absolutely zero contact. And for him to show up as the +1 of my husband's stepdaughter to his ex-girlfriend's wedding, who he cheated on, I mean, that's just a new level of pathetic for somebody who's almost 40. Anyway, once she walked in, my stepdaughter brought him right up to me, and both of them were smirking. And she told me I might recognize this guy, and she thought that it would be a nice little surprise for me. I honestly didn't even know what to say. I was just dumbstruck, but I didn't need to say anything because my husband stood up for me immediately. I was stumped. So he was the one who ended up snapping, and he yelled at his daughter to take him out, and she seemed shocked by that reaction. I don't know why. Because this was my husband's wedding as well, and she was ruining everything. He had tried his patience with her, but it had clearly not worked. So he finally snapped and asked her to get out, and she tried to argue with him, but he was so furious, I guess even she got scared. Even though usually she's a total spoiled brat. Anyway, within a couple of minutes, both of them had walked back out, and my husband apologized to all the guests for the inconvenience, and just to distract them, we started serving the food, even though it was not the correct time. But we had to deal with this situation, so there was nothing else to do. I was very upset. So I stayed with the guests, and for half an hour, my husband was outside, and when he came back, he told me that he had nothing to worry about anymore, and we could proceed with the event as usual now. So we had our first dance. We had the speeches and everything, and nobody brought up what had happened earlier. Thankfully, in that respect, people were quite nice, and I was allowed to forget about everything that had happened. Now it's been a couple of days, and I have finally found out what exactly went down between my husband and his daughter. The other day when he went out to speak with them, basically, I'll keep it short, he told her that he was not going to pay for her college situation anymore because what she had done was unforgivable. And she was going to have to make her own arrangements, and she was livid about that, and she is currently blaming me on social media. And he also told her that she was not welcome to come and stay with us anymore unless she could make it up to me somehow. Now, I know that it's not my fault, but my stepdaughter's maternal grandparents are accusing me of ruining everything and are telling me that I'm heartless. And I don't think that's right. Aita for not feeling bad for my stepdaughter getting kicked out of the family? Update 1. Okay, so a lot of you have been asking me how my stepdaughter was able to find and contact my ex, and well, I don't think it must have been that hard because everyone knows his name. And with social media, I think it was a piece of cake for her. As for why he decided to show up, I don't have any answers for that. I guess he's just a troublemaker and he hates me or something, so why not? Is it creepy that he showed up as the +1 for my stepdaughter who's literally 20 years younger than him? Most decidedly so, but that's his lookout. I can't do anything about it. I'm contemplating getting a restraining order against him, but let's see. As for my stepdaughter, she and her grandparents have been hounding me on social media, and I've just blocked them. They have also been trying to contact me via email and a bunch of different phone numbers as well, trying to convince me to talk to my husband, but I'm not going to do that. In my last post, most of the comments said that this was not my fault, so I'm going to take that seriously. I'm not going to pretend to be sorry for anything because at the end of the day, I've not done anything. Whatever had been done, it was my stepdaughter's fault, and she has to take accountability for it. I think I've given her enough chances to be a decent person, and if she can't deal with it, that's on her, not me. Update 2. Okay, so it's been a week since I got married, and like I mentioned in my previous update, I had blocked my stepdaughter and her grandparents everywhere because I didn't want anything to do with these people. So for the past 3 days, I had not received any messages from them. No emails from spammy looking email addresses, no weird messages from unknown numbers. Obviously, I thought that things were calming down and that they were probably going to leave me alone now, but they didn't. Instead, they decided to double down on whatever they were doing, and they decided to post a bunch of pictures of me on their social media handles with the nastiest captions that they could come up with. And this was not even well thought out or anything. They had probably just used AI or something to come up with roasts or whatever, and they had pasted that on the pictures themselves and posted it. I showed it to my husband, and we are going to take legal action against him if they don't take it down because this is ridiculous. Update 3. Hey, so it's been 2 weeks since my previous update, and yes, we were able to threaten them with a lawsuit, and I guess they got scared, so they took it down. But my stepdaughter went on to threaten me, telling me that she would make sure that I regretted what I had done for the rest of my life, and she was going to haunt me. I don't know what that means, but I was quite annoyed by then, so I decided to speak to my lawyer and filed for a restraining order against the girl because I don't trust her at all. I don't know what she's capable of. She just seems unhinged now. My husband has apologized to me several times, even though it's not his fault. I know that he has tried his best, but I guess some people are just spoiled. I don't know what her problem is. My husband thinks it's the fact that she thinks that I'm going to replace her in his life and that he's going to prioritize me more, even though he has always tried to keep a balance. So I don't know where that came from. But this kind of insecurity, which hurts the people, I don't know what to think about it. I felt bad for her because she was just 20, but now I don't feel anything for her anymore. I just hope that she can leave me alone now because I can't deal with this nonsense. Thankfully, my husband is by my side, so as long as he's with me, I don't really care about anything else. And anyway, after that threat and after I filed for a restraining order, she hasn't really said anything. So I'm guessing that she might actually leave me alone this time. So I'm hopeful. Story 2. So This happened a few years ago, and I honestly still can't believe how long I waited before I finally did something about it. I'm not usually one for drama, and I try to take the high road in most situations, especially when it comes to family, but sometimes the perfect opportunity for pettiness falls right into your lap, and you just have to take it. A little backstory. I got married to my husband Tony 4 years ago. Our relationship had its ups and downs like any couple, but I loved him and still do. His family, though, that was a different story. His mom, Sophie, was always difficult, controlling, passive-aggressive, judgmental in the most subtle yet exhausting ways. The kind of person who wraps up an insult in pretty words and a fake smile and then acts surprised when you take offense. She's always been very obsessed with appearances, especially weight. Hers, mine, everyone else's. I've always been on the curvier side. Nothing outrageous, but I am not a size 2, and I do not want to be. I enjoy food. I work out when I can. I'm healthy, I'm happy, and I'm confident. But Sophie could not let that go. From the moment I met her, she made little comments about what I ate, whether I wanted seconds, and how Tony used to be so into fitness. She never said anything outright mean, but she had a way of making you feel like you were doing something wrong just by existing in your body. Anyway, my first birthday after getting married was supposed to be special. Tony and I had just moved into our new apartment. I was trying hard to adjust to married life, keeping in touch with both families and making sure things ran smoothly between me and my new in-laws. Tony planned a little dinner at home, and Sophie decided to drop by with a birthday gift. I was a little surprised. She was not usually the gift type. She handed me a nicely wrapped box with this smug smile on her face. I thanked her, opened it, and inside was a digital food weighing scale. My heart sank a little, but I did not let it show. I just smiled and nodded politely. Then I noticed the card. It was not even handwritten. She had typed it up and printed it out. It read, "This might help you stay on track so Tony doesn't lose interest in a few years. Happy birthday, dear." I wish I were joking. I felt like I had been slapped on my birthday in my home by my new mother-in-law, and the worst part, Tony did not even seem to understand why I was so upset. He said something like, "She probably meant well," and brushed it off. I did not want to ruin the evening, so I kept quiet. I shoved the scale in the back of a kitchen cabinet and never looked at it again. But that moment stuck with me. Over the years, Sophie kept doing what Sophie does best. Little digs here and there, veiled compliments, unsolicited advice about portion control or cutting carbs, all under the guise of caring. I kept my mouth shut, mostly for the sake of Tony. I did not want to create drama. I did not want to come off as the aggressive daughter-in-law, so I swallowed it all, just like she probably expected me to. Fast forward to last year, Sophie had a minor health scare and was admitted to the hospital for a couple of days. Nothing major, just dehydration and a few blood pressure issues. She was fine, but the moment I heard she was going to be stuck in the hospital bed for a while, a little idea sparked in my brain. I remembered the scale. I found it exactly where I left it, tucked away behind old baking trays and a forgotten waffle iron. It was still in perfect condition, barely touched. I repackaged it in a simple gift bag and attached a card. This time, the card was handwritten. It said, "To the things that could be avoided if you just ate a little less." I dropped it off at the hospital with a bouquet of flowers. I did not stay. I just left it with the nurse at the front desk and asked her to deliver it to Sophie's room. Now, I know that was petty. I know that was extra, but it felt like closure. Like I had taken back a piece of my dignity that she chipped away at for years. I did not even know how she reacted. She never brought it up. Tony hasn't mentioned it, and I do not even know if he knows I did. But I heard from Ashley, my sister-in-law, Paul's wife, that Sophie was not happy. According to Ashley, she went on a mini rant about ungrateful girls these days and how some people just do not know how to take a joke. Apparently, she tried to act like she did not understand where it came from, but Ashley knew, and she remembered the scale. She told me, honestly, it was overdue. Since then, Sophie has been oddly quiet around me. Not exactly polite, but she hasn't made a single comment about my body or eating habits. It's like she's walking on eggshells around me now. And weirdly enough, that peace has been glorious. Some of my friends think I went too far. Others think I was way too patient for way too long. Tony still doesn't know the whole story, and I honestly do not know if I will ever tell him. He's not super close with his mom these days, and part of me is glad he doesn't have to choose sides. So, aita for regifting my mother-in-law the food scale she gave me years ago with a petty note while she was in hospital? Update 1. So remember how I said Sophie never brought up the food scale incident? Well, she did not. But apparently she did not let it go either. About 3 weeks after I dropped the gift off at the hospital, we were all invited to a family barbecue at Paul and Ash's place. I honestly did not want to go, but Tony convinced me. It's just dinner, he said. Let's not make it a thing. Fine. I showed up, stayed polite, and planned to leave early. Sophie was there, of course, and she avoided me like the plague. Not even a passive-aggressive comment, just stone-cold silence. Everyone noticed it, but no one said anything. Until Ashy, God bless Ashy, pulled me aside and said, "You have no idea what you started." Apparently, after getting the scale at the hospital, Sophie went home and started spiraling. Not because of the note itself, but because it triggered something else. She started obsessing over whether Tony had said something to me. She convinced herself that he had shared too much about her behavior over the years and started grilling him, Paul, and even Ashy. Here's where it gets wild. In her paranoia, Sophie went through some old text messages and ended up accidentally forwarding a screenshot from years ago to the entire family group chat. It was from right around the time of my birthday, and it was her texting one of her friends saying, "I gave her a food scale for her birthday. Let's see if she gets the hint. God knows Tony won't cheat unless she lets herself go. Gotta protect my son's appetite." Yep. Not only did she admit the gift was meant as a dig, but she fully leaned into that whole "your weight controls whether your man cheats" narrative. Everyone in the family saw it, including Tony. He was livid. He called her out in the group chat and told her that her obsession with my body was disgusting, that her jokes had never been funny, and that she owed me an apology years ago. Tony backed him up, and so did Ashy. Even Sophie's own sister chimed in and said, "You've always crossed the line with your so-called advice." Sophie, she left the group chat. She hasn't spoken to any of us since. Tony's not reaching out, and I have to admit, it's been peaceful. All I did was re-gift a petty little scale, but somehow it ended up exposing everything she worked so hard to keep under the surface. Karma's funny like that. Update 2. So I thought Sophie had finally backed off after the group chat disaster and total radio silence that followed. It had been almost 2 months of bliss. No texts, no fake nice calls, no subtle jabs, just peace. Tony was done with her. I was emotionally free, and even the rest of the family seemed to be avoiding the drama. I was starting to believe the saga had ended. Until last Saturday. Around 10 in the morning, there was a knock at our door. I assumed it was a package or maybe a neighbor. Nope. It was Sophie, holding a massive woven basket wrapped in plastic, smiling like nothing had ever happened. I didn't even get a chance to speak. She just walked in, and started placing things on our kitchen table. The basket was bizarre. Protein bars, detox teas, low-carb snacks, diet cookbooks, an air fryer, and a brand new fitness journal. Right on top was a card that said, "For a healthier and happier you, with love." I just stood there stunned. She sat down like she owned the place and said she wanted to apologize properly. But her apology sounded more like a PR statement than genuine remorse. She said she was deeply sorry if her gift came across the wrong way, and that she only meant to encourage a healthy lifestyle for the sake of her son's future. Then came the kicker. She wanted me to publicly say the scale was just a misunderstanding and that I overreacted for the sake of the family. She said she was being painted as a villain and that her charity group had started asking questions after she got removed from a few group chats and events. Yep, her charity group. Apparently someone, my guess, Ashy, had sent the leaked screenshot around to other people she worked with. Sophie's image was taking a hit and she could not handle it. She needed damage control. She needed me to help fix it. I told her no, very calmly. I said if she wanted forgiveness, it needed to be real, not another dig wrapped in an apology. She didn't like that. She called me dramatic and claimed I was ruining Tony's family ties. Tony walked in midway through and lost it. He told her to leave, said this was not about family, it was about her controlling behavior, and he was not going to let her manipulate us anymore. She stormed out, leaving the ridiculous basket behind. I tossed the whole thing in the trash. Later that evening, we found out Sophie had posted some cryptic message on Facebook about being betrayed by the ones you tried to help. The comments? Brutal. Turns out a lot of people had stories about her judgments, her health advice, her unsolicited comments. She lit the fire. I just held up the mirror. At this point, I honestly do not think there's going to be a reconciliation, and I'm okay with that. Update 3. Just when I thought Sophie, my lovely mother-in-law, had finally vanished into the background after months of chaos, she came back swinging. No, not with more backhanded gifts or guilt trips. This time she tried to sue me. Yes, you read that right. Sophie actually attempted to take legal action because I regifted her a food scale. A couple of weeks ago, Tony and I received a formal-looking letter in the mail from some lawyer. I was confused at first, but as soon as I saw Sophie's name in the sender line, I braced myself. The letter was filled with over-the-top claims about how my deliberate and malicious behavior caused her emotional distress, reputational damage, and psychological harm. Apparently, regifting a food scale with a snarky note had caused her unbearable suffering. She also blamed me for the leaked text messages in the family group chat and the fallout that followed. People distancing themselves from her, her being removed from her charity committees, and the general decline in her social status. Turns out the lawyer was the son of one of her charity club friends. He had passed the bar less than a year ago and clearly did not do his research because the letter was more of a tantrum on paper than anything legally sound. Tony was furious. He did not even hesitate before contacting our actual lawyer, who laughed when he read it and confirmed there was no case. Just a dramatic woman who could not accept consequences. But that letter gave us the push we needed to take official action. Our lawyer sent Sophie a cease and desist, making it clear that if she attempted any more direct or indirect contact, letters, calls, social media posts, even using others to speak for her, he would file harassment charges. After that, she went radio silent. Paul and Ashley told us later that Sophie was embarrassed and devastated that her little legal stunt did not go as planned. She had expected us to panic and apologize. Instead, she got cut off entirely. She left the family group chat again, deleted her social media, and even skipped Paul's birthday dinner. Sophie, who never missed a family gathering unless it was to guilt trip someone, did not show up. The fallout was not just with us. Her friends from her charity group began distancing themselves too. Apparently, word spread about her legal situation and the mask she had worn for so long cracked in front of the people whose approval she craved most. Tony and I are doing better than ever. This whole thing, bizarre as it's been, actually brought us closer. We have learned to draw hard boundaries and hold them, something we should have done a long time ago. And Paul and Ashley, they have been completely supportive. Ashley told me she had her own stories about Sophie's advice, and seeing me stand up to her inspired her to speak up too. As for a food scale, it's still in our kitchen junk drawer, resting peacefully next to old batteries and dead pens. Not because we use it, but because every time I see it, I remember the moment I chose to stop swallowing her cruelty with a smile. I know for a fact that I am definitely NTA, or regifting Sophie the petty food scale she once used to insult me, and refusing to play nice even when she tried to. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.